Now, today's sutta is the Bodhi Rāja Sutta, the Discourse to Prince Bodhi, M85. Now, this is a Majjhima Sutta, so we have a good idea. It's going to be a long one, a very important one. Here in this sutta, the prince makes a short statement that happiness comes from suffering. Yes, it is wrong view. And using that as point of departure, the Buddha gave this long discourse. It's a long discourse, so I have to summarize for you within the time we have, and you can read it by yourself in your own time. It's a very interesting sutta. It's one of those places where we get what is called a canonical life history of the Buddha. So if you ask yourself, where can I read the life of the Buddha in the sutta itself, without all those extra miraculous things we find in later stories? In this sutta, you find the Buddha himself telling his life from the renunciation to teaching the 5 monks and the awakening of the 5 monks. Now, Prince Bodhi, he doesn't have a child, so he wants to know whether he's going to have a child or not. And by the way, he's the prince, the son of King Udena and Vasaladatta. So he invites the Buddha and the Sangha to the palace, a newly constructed palace called Kokanada. Now, being a prince, he seems to be quite a violent man, although he was raised to be, to take refuge in the Buddha. Later we find out it's a very interesting thing about his refuge taking. So, like any proud prince, he has this beautiful, amazing palace called Kokanada, and he wants to make sure that no one else will have this amazing palace like his. So he secretly planned to kill the architect once the palace was finished, so that he will not build another one like that. Now, the irony or the interesting point in this story is he confides this in his assistant, confidant, called Sanjika Putta, who is a Brahmin student, his assistant. And this Brahmin student is that compassionate person, and you find Ananda often plays this role, and in this case it is Sanjika Putta. So he quietly goes to this architect and warns him, so this king wants to kill you after you finish constructing the palace. Now here this is where we do have an amazing touch to the story. This architect was a really clever engineer. So what he did was he secretly built on the roof of the palace, I suppose, out of wood that he gets, he builds a flying contraption. I'm not really sure how it looks like, but he managed to make it in such a way that it's able to hold him and his small family. And once he finishes his work, it's able to fly away free to freedom and safety. And if my memory serves me well, apparently he flew off into the Himalayas, and there he started his own kingdom. After all, if someone flies in the air and then lands somewhere in the Himalayas, you can imagine what people would think of him, having come from the sky. So this is a fascinating story about behind the Prince Bodhi. So let's look at the sutta now. Page 43. Bodhi Rāja Kumāra Sutta, the Discourse to Prince Bodhi, M85. So in this case, let's see, where was the Buddha located? Thus have I heard at one time the Blessed One was staying in the deer park at Bisakala forest at Sungsumaragiri Sungsu Maragira in Baga country. So this is quite a way out place. And Nakulapita, Nakulamata from there also. Okay. Now, the second verse is the palace Kokanada was recently built by Prince Bodhi, and it's not yet inhabited by anyone. So he tells his assistant, the Brahmin youth, Manawa, Sanchika Buddha, so go and invite the Buddha to come for a meal. And so he goes to invite the Buddha. Okay. So now let's see what happens after that. So the invitation is kind of standard. He goes to the Buddha, compliments him, and say the prince invites you. So he comes over and he reaches the palace. Okay, let's go further down to number 6. Okay, section 6. Yeah. All right. So when it was dawn, the Blessed One, having dressed himself, taking robe and bowl, went to Prince Bodhi's residence. So imagine the Buddha and the monks kind of walking slowly, calmly, and reached the palace. At that time, Prince Bodhi was standing at the porch of the outer gateway, waiting for the Blessed One. So when he sees the Buddha coming, he at once goes up to the Buddha and invites the Buddha to the palace. 7.2. But the Blessed One stopped at the lowest step of the stairway. Now, what has happened here is that Prince Bodhi has spread out white cloth all over the palace floor, at the front part anyway, and right down to the lowest step. And he made this kind of vow. He thinks that if the Buddha steps on this cloth, he will have a child. But here, the interesting thing is the Buddha seems to read the mind of this prince, and he knows he won't have a child. So he doesn't step on that cloth. That's the story behind it anyway, from the commentaries. And the Vinaya also contains a rule with this same story, background story, which apparently prohibits monks from doing the same thing, from stepping on white cloth when entering a house, things like that, with this kind of prediction. This is not what monks do. They're not fortune tellers. Okay. All right. So the Buddha remains silent the first time. Prince Bodhi invited him the second time, the third time. Now, as we know, the third time, something will happen. Okay, let's look at 7.7 now. Then the Blessed One turned and looked at the Venerable Ananda. So this is one of those unique occasions when this is the only place you find this sentence. The Buddha turned and looked at Ananda. And the Buddha didn't say anything, but Ananda knows what to do. Probably the Buddha must have told him earlier. All right, so let's see, what does Ananda tell the Prince Bodhi? 7.8. Then the Venerable Ananda said to Prince Bodhi, Noble Prince, let the cloths be removed. The Blessed One will not step on the cloth spread. The Tathagata regards posterity with compassion. Okay, this is one of those sentences which I must admit I'm not so sure of the exact meaning. Either the Buddha is saying that he does not do this sort of thing, so that future monks also will not have to, become obliged to do this sort of thing. I mean, imagine if the Buddha stepped on the cloth and Prince Bodhi does have a child. So in the future, in our time, other monks also would be expected to do that. And if they can't do it, then people will lose faith. So there is a danger there. So I suppose that's one way of interpreting this sentence. The Tathagata regards posterity with compassion, right? So anyway, this prince, of course, was deferent, was respectful to Buddha, and he removed the cloth, and then the prince invites the Buddha and the monks into the palace and served them with royal food and drinks and so on. And now there's something interesting here. After the meal, okay. Now, section 9. When the Blessed One has finished his meal and washed his bowl and hands, Prince Bodhi, taking a low seat, sat down at one side. So this is where we don't see the Buddha doing his thanksgiving. Maybe it is done later at the end of the sutta, perhaps. But the teaching starts here with an opening remark by Prince Bodhi himself. 9.2. Sitting at one side, Prince Bodhi said to the Blessed One, Bhante, it occurred to me thus, happiness or pleasure, sukha in this sense, is not to be found through pleasure. Happiness is to be found through pain. Apparently, he could have heard this or learned this from the Jains, because you don't find this in Buddhist teachings, but apparently in the Jain teaching, you do have such a thing. Now, the Buddha's reply is very clear. Okay? Look at number 10 now. This is the Buddha's reply in that section. Okay? The Buddha says, Here, noble prince, before my self-awakening, when I was still only an unawakened bodhisattva, this too occurred to me. Happiness is not to be found through pleasure. Happiness is to be found through pain. So here we see the Buddha taking this wrong view by the prince to go back into his own past, that he has experienced this situation himself. He has thought this idea. The question is, when did he think this idea? Okay. This was when, you remember, he spent 6 years torturing himself, right? So anyway, he tells his story, how it all happened, all right? So he begins, in a sense, from the Great Renunciation, section 11. After some time, noble prince, while I was still young, a black-haired young lad endowed with the blessing of youth in the prime of life, though my mother and father wished otherwise and wept with tearful faces, I shaved off my hair and beard, put on the saffron robe, and went forth from the household life into the homeless life. Now, this is the Buddha's own statement about his renunciation. So notice this story is quite different from what we heard in the commentaries, what we often hear, right? Being told that he, when he left quietly in the dark of night, he didn't say anything to anyone, and then Channa was there with the horse, you know, and Mara appeared, and so on. So here we have this historical story told by Buddha himself, and then you have the other one, the mythical version by the commentary of storytellers. So we have two versions. Of course, as Dhamma teacher, you have quite a problem here. What do we do, right? Well, we just tell it as it is. As it is. We say, okay, in the Bodhi Rajakumara Sutta, this is what the Buddha says. Elsewhere, so there are other similar story from the Buddha himself. Same story, okay? You can read up the notes and so on. Whereas commentators make the story more interesting, more elaborate, more dramatic. So here, Prince Siddhartha or Siddhartha left home right before the saying, in a sense, you know, living a family just like that. All right, so there's something for us to reflect on. Next, okay, from now on, I will summarize so that we can finish the sutta in time. So you can see the heading here, okay, Alara Kalama. So now he goes to look for the teachers. He went to two of the leading teachers of his time. Okay, now we'll find out why. Section 12 says, having gone forth in this way, noble prince, in the quest of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I went to Alara Kalama and said to him, next page now, go down. Awuso or friend Kalama, I want to lead the holy life in this Dhamma Vinaya, that is in the teaching and discipline of Alara Kalama. All right. So Alara Kalama teaches him meditation. What sort of meditation did he learn from Alara Kalama? 12.6. Then noble prince, notice that the Buddha is talking to this prince who always uses the vocative noble prince. Then noble prince, I went to Alara Kalama and asked him, Avuso Kalama, in what way do you declare that by realizing for yourself through your own direct knowledge, you attain and dwell in this Dharma? Noble prince, he declared that it was the base of nothingness. Okay, this is the key teaching he learned. He learned, Siddhartha learned how to meditate up to the formless realm. This is step 7, okay? The second last stage. Second highest, in fact. Yeah? So, but then he noticed there's no awakening at all. So he asked Alara Kalama, is that all you teach? Is there anything more, right? Now, Alara Kalama is very impressed with Siddhartha, that he invites Siddhartha to lead his community. Okay? So he says that's all he teaches. So Siddhartha is as good as Alara Kalama. Right? So he invites Siddhartha to be co-teacher. Okay, let's look at 12.13. 12.13. Okay, right. So come now, Avuso. Here is addressing Siddhartha. Okay, let the two of us lead this community. 12.4. 12.14. Thus, noble prince Alara Kalama, my teacher, placed me, his pupil, on an equal footing with himself and accorded me the highest honor. But it occurred to me, this Dharma does not lead to revulsion with the world, to cessation of suffering, to direct knowledge, to self-awakening, to nirvana, but only to rebirth in the base of nothingness. Noble prince, dissatisfied with that Dharma, rebels with it, I left. Okay, here some of you who are very observant may say, oh, that's interesting. We have the Buddha or the Bodhisattva actually referring to Alara Kalama as my teacher, right? I mean, in the future, people know the suttas very well, and we get into more arguments and say, well, you know, he did call Alara Kalama my teacher. Now here it is out of respect for Alara Kalama. So it is a fact Alara Kalama was his teacher, but only taught him up to the base of nothingness. Right? So in that sense, he did not teach the Bodhisattva how to awaken. In that sense, it's not a teacher. Right? So that's how we explain it. All right, so leaving Alara Kalama, Siddhartha now goes to the second teacher of that time, the second well-known teacher, that is Uddaka Ramaputta. Okay, notice this name is very important. Some of those scholars of the past missed this name. Okay, Uddaka Ramaputta, son of Rama. So it is not Rama, it is the son of Rama. Right? So he goes to him and said to him the same thing, says he wants to learn the Dhamma so that he will awaken. Right? So now Ramaputta teaches him the Dhamma, but it is not his teaching, it is his father's teaching, it's Rama's teaching, but Rama has passed away. So what's interesting here is you have this Uddaka teaching the Bodhisattva how to meditate, and the meditation works. And I suppose it also worked for Uddaka. This part I'm not very sure, because Uddaka does not attain any high state, obviously, because there was no Dhamma, Buddha Dhamma yet at that time. So he only knows how to meditate up to the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Now, at this point, it is very interesting. We should note that from this sutta, it is clear that even before the Buddha's time, there were yogis, there were meditators who were able to meditate on jhanas to attain even the formless, what you call formless level. All right. Now, I mentioned this. In fact, I wrote an article about answering a certain monk's strange statement that there was no dhyana before the Buddha. And a lot of monks were troubled by this strange statement. So I wrote an article on the Buddha discovered dhyana. So here again, you can see very clear there was dhyana before the Buddha. All right. So here again, the Buddha, or rather the Bodhisattva, only learned the base of this here, the base of nothingness. Okay. Again, let me see. This one, we should look at 13.6. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong verse. 13.6. All right. Then here, Udakarama Puttarada tells the Bodhisattva that that's the highest level he knows, or rather his father has attained. That is the base of neither perception nor non-perception. So this is the 8th jhana, the highest level that you can reach to jhana. And that's all. And no one could go beyond that at that time. So again here, this Ramaputta invites the Bodhisattva to lead the community. Okay, let's look at 13.13. 13.13. This time the wording is slightly different, right? Thus, as Rama was, so you are. As you are, so Rama was. All right. In other words, this Uddaka, son of Rama, said, "You have attained the same level as my father Rama. Come now, Avuso, lead this community." So notice here, he does not say, "Lead with me." He tells the Bodhisattva, "You lead the community," because he has a. That means from this we can interpret that Ramaputta has not attained that level himself. So only the Bodhisattva has attained the level. Right? So this Uddaka invites the Bodhisattva to lead the community, to be his teacher. Thus, noble Prince Uddaka Ramaputta, my companion. Notice here it says, my companion in this holy life, not teacher. Right? So it's very important to notice these little details. My companion in the holy life placed me in the position of a teacher and accorded me the highest honor. All right. But then the Buddha says, this stage doesn't lead to awakening at all. So he left them, right? So let's look at the part 13.16. Okay, noble prince, dissatisfied with that Dhamma, revolves with the Dhamma I left. Okay. Notice here the word dissatisfied, revolves. It seems to be strong, but in the spiritual sense, it just means it doesn't work, so you're not going to have anything to do with it, right? Okay, so now, we come to the next stage where the Bodhisattva is on his own. So he's reflecting on what to do. He has tried gone to the 2 great teachers of his time, and he has learned all those methods of meditation. It also shows that he himself is a very good meditator. He's able to attain the level of, up to the highest formless dhyana. So he goes to this place called Sena Nigama. Now, this name is a bit uncertain. Some people, I take it as Sena Nigama, Sena's village. Some take it as Senani Gama. Okay? It doesn't matter as long as You get the sound right, near Uruwela. It is a beautiful place, a delightful forest grove with a river nearby. And there is a village, there are villages all around so that he can collect alms. So he's very happy with this place. And he says, this is sufficient for spiritual striving. So he's going to practice there. Now he reflects on what to do. All right, let's look at this 15 and go a bit further down to, yeah. He reflects on the nature of morality by way of the parable of the 3 kinds of sticks. 3 kinds of sticks, 3 similes or 3 parables. Suppose, noble prince, there was a stick wet with sap and it is left in the water. And a man comes along, he takes the 2 sticks, 1 upper stick, 1 lower stick, and try to make fire. Try to use them as fire sticks. But these sticks are wet and then they're in the water, so he cannot start fire with it. Okay, so of course here's a question and answer, and he tells, okay, this is the parable. What do you think, prince? And the prince says, no, Bhante, you can't start a fire with it. All right, why? Because the stick is wet. All right, and so what's the meaning of this? The meaning is 15.5. 15.5 further down. Right, so even so, noble prince, whenever recluses or Brahmins who neither bodily nor mentally dwell aloof from sensual pleasures, and for whom sensual pleasure, sensual desire and sensual pleasure, love for sensual pleasures, infatuation with sensual pleasures, thirst for sensual pleasures, fever for sensual pleasures, have neither been fully abandoned nor well appeased internally, even if these good recluses and Brahmins were to feel painful, racking, piercing pains due to exertion, they are incapable of knowledge, vision, and supreme awakening. And if these good recluses and Brahmins were not to feel painful, racking, piercing pains due to exertion, they are still incapable of knowledge, vision, and supreme awakening. So here, so long as these practitioners they indulge in sensual pleasures, they think about it, they will not be able to meditate. So even if they do feel pain from their yoga practices, they won't understand it, they will not gain any understanding. Then the second simile, you have 16.2, a stick that wet with sap left on dry ground. So this is like fresh cut wood, but it is left on the dry ground. Again, it is far away from water. Someone comes along, tries to use 2 sticks to make fire with this kind of wood. Again, you will not be able to make fire with it, right? So here, the Buddha, the meaning is, even so, noble prince, whichever recluses or Brahmins who do not bodily dwell aloof from sensual pleasures, they may not think about it, but they still indulge in sensual pleasures. They still wouldn't be able to experience, understand, and benefit from their own practice, their yoga practices, because their mind is still not clear. Then there comes the third simile. This is 17, section 17. Let's go down here. All right, so here the third simile or third parable is you have this dry, sapless stick lying on the ground far away from water. So the man comes along and takes two of these sticks, 1 upper stick, 1 lower stick, and starts making fire. What do you think, Prince? Asked the Buddha. Do you think this man can make fire? Then he says, yes, Bhante. Why is that so? Because the stick is dry and sapless, left on dry ground, away from water, right? So similarly, the Buddha says, in order to really focus your mind in this kind of deep meditation, you have to be both bodily and mentally free from sensual pleasures. Now, what does it mean to be free from sensual pleasures? It means to make sure that the senses do not distract you, because these are sensual pleasures, that they distract us, they drag us away, so we cannot meditate. That is why while we're meditating, we close our eyes, we sit quietly, So we let go of these sensual pleasures for that moment. But in the case of the monks and nuns, they have taken the vow to abstain from sensual pleasures, right? So that they can meditate better. So this is basically what the Buddha is trying to say. You want to really focus in deep meditation, jhana, you have to let go of the senses. That's the meaning. Yeah? All right. I think this is a good place to take a short break. And in about 5 minutes' time, we'll come back and continue. So now the Buddha is going to describe the years of self-mortification, how he did his yogic self-torture, right? Look at section 18. 18, Noble Prince, it occurred to me, suppose, with my teeth clenched and my tongue pressed up against my palate, I bit down, hold back, and crush the mind with mine. So he's going to go into this yogic meditation with a firm determination, right? With the tongue pressed up against the palate, teeth clenched. Of course, that clench is not like hard clench, but just close together. It means determination. And he tries to overcome the mind. 18.2, while I did so, sweat ran from my armpit. So he really tried hard, really focused. It was just as if a strong man holding a weaker man by the head or shoulder were to restrain, subdue, and attack him, right? So he felt this strain, and this was painful to him. So he was answering Prince Bodhi's remark. He tried this painful experience, but still there was no benefit for it. Okay. See, but however, in this case, but noble Prince, such painful feeling that arose in me did not invade my mind and remain. So in other words, here the pain remains in the body. It's only bodily pain, but it doesn't trouble his mind. So basically, he's saying it does not work. All right. So next method. Of course, this takes some time. We do not know how long, maybe a few months, because altogether he did 6 years of this kind of very painful yoga practices. You know? Okay, let's look at section 19 now. This is his next method. It's called the breathingless meditation. Now, we have heard of breath meditation. This is non-breath meditation. 19. Brackets 1, Noble Prince. Oh, by the way, you notice here this little italics reference, M36. Usually I put it 9 points. It means if you go to Sutta 36 and 21, you find the repetition of this section, right? So this is not the only place. You can also go to Sutta M36, section 21, yeah? Right, so it says, suppose I practice breathingless meditation, so I stop my in-breath and out-breath through the mouth and nose. Now, of course, you can't do this under normal circumstances. He learned some very difficult yoga practices. While I did so, said the Buddha, there was a loud sound of winds coming out from my ear holes, just like the loud sound of winds from a smith's bellow. Now, how come he hears all this loud sounds? Because he's gone into this deep meditation and is trying to stop his breath. So all these sounds in his head gets amplified, right? So it was really difficult for him, really painful. In fact, he did not go anywhere with it. So he says, but he says he did not give up. He says, suppose I try harder in this case. Right? Suppose I practice further the breathless meditation, and he went on like that. This time, he prevented any air from coming to the mouth, the nose, and the ears. Okay, because there's a eustachian tube in the ear where the air a little bit of air can move in and out. So apparently, even those days they knew about this. So this time, while I did so, violent winds cut through my head as if a strong man was splitting my head open with a sharp axe. So this very graphic description, sharp pains, all right? But still, it didn't work. And he thought maybe I didn't do it hard enough. So let me go further still, all right? Suppose I practice further still. Let's see, further down. Let's go down some more. Okay, so he tried some more. So there's more pain this time, right? Still worse pain came up. So you see, I italicize it, means everything's repeated here, except this one, which is underlined. This time the pain is like a strong man were to tighten a strong leather strap around my head as a headband. So he felt his head almost like the skull like being crushed. The pain was really bad, a bad headache, so to speak. But remember, bodily pain, but no mental pain. Right? Okay, so let's go further down. What happens then? He tries harder still. He didn't give up. And this time, violent winds carved up my belly as if a skilled butcher would cut with a butcher's knife, sharp pains. No? And then after that, we went on further. There was a violent burning in my body, he said. Like a strong man, two men were to seize a weaker man and roast him over a pit of burning coal. So the whole body felt burning, very hot. So he felt this really very difficult for him. 24 is interesting, section 24. Now, noble prince, when the devas saw me, some said, the recluse Gotama is dead. Other devas said, the recluse Gotama is not dead, but dying. Still others says the recluse Gotama is neither dead nor dying. He is an arahat. Such is how arahats dwell. Right? So all are different views and they're all wrong views anyway. So this method didn't work. So he stopped doing it. And he thought maybe this time he'll try something else. What's the next method? 25. Noble prince, it occurred to me. Suppose I practice cutting off food entirely. I don't take any food. Right? So he starved himself until he became so thin, right? Noble prince, it occurred to me, if I claim to be, okay, here some devas wanted to, put in some divine food, some ambrosia into him. He says, no, I can't do this. If I do that, then I cannot say I really have done my practice without divine help. So there's no need, said the Bodhisattva, and dismissed the devas. Then he decides, okay, what if I take just a little bit of food? Okay, suppose I take very little food, a handful each time, perhaps bean soup or lentil soup or some kind of bean, all right? Pea soup, veg soup. Okay, this is the famous part. We have seen this statue of the very bony, emaciated Buddha. Very few, there are less than half a dozen such images found mostly in Afghanistan. The Buddha, the Bodhisattva, it's not the Buddha, by the way, the Bodhisattva, very thin, right? So this is the passage. When I did so, my body reached a state of extreme emaciation, right? Go further down, please. 26.2, 26.3, okay. So my limbs became like the vine stems of bamboo stems. My backside became like a camel's hoof. The projection of my spine stood out like corded beads. My ribs jutted out like crazy rafters of old broken shed. The gleam of my eyes sank deep down into their sockets, looking like the gleam of water gone far down in a deep well. My scalp shriveled away as green bitter gourd shrivels and withers in the wind and sun. My belly skin touched my backbone. The stomach, you touch the stomach, you could touch his backbone. Now, this is the part where he nearly lost his life. When I defecated and urinated, I fell over on my face right there. When I tried rubbing to ease my body, by rubbing my limbs with my hands, the hair rotted at the roots, fell off, and so on. Okay, so and people saw him and thought that he was dead, and it looks very dark, and then he told himself, wow, I have done everything. And there must be another way, since all this doesn't work, even not taking food, and he almost died from it. Could there be another way? All right, now comes the turning point. And what is the turning point, the middle way? Okay, let's look at it now. Section 29. He recalls the first jhana meditation during the plowing festival. Now here the plowing festival is not mentioned by name. We know he's 7 years old from the commentaries. Again, it's not mentioned he's 7 years old. He merely says, I recall that when my father, the Sakya, was working, I was seated in the cool shade of the jambu tree. Now remember, this is not jambu. There's no jambu tree in India. The tree is a jambu tree. It's a different kind of fruit. So here again, we find there's no plowing festival, but you have this incident, this story of the young prince sitting under the Bodhi tree, going to the first jhana. So he realizes this must be it, right? Let's go further down, 29.2. Right, so he says he attained the first jhana, all right? And could that be the path to awakening, right? So then he realized that is the path to awakening, that I fear not the pleasure that has nothing to do with sensual desires and unwholesome states. Right, so there you are. This is where he tells Prince Bodhi that it is wrong to say pain comes happiness. He says there is this pleasure which is not sense-based, which is also wholesome. So now at that time there were 5 monks within. Not it's only mentioned in the background, but now we know in 31, he says, Noble Prince, it occurred to me, it is not easy to attain that pleasure with a body so excessively emaciated, so weak. Suppose I ate some solid food, some boiled rice and gruel, and I ate some solid food. Remember, there's a story here, the Lady Sujata offered this food, right? So he took some food anyway. Okay, now comes this turning point. We know about the 5 monks. Now at that time, the 5 monks were waiting upon me, thinking if our recluse attain some state, he will inform us. But when I ate the boiled rice and gruel, the 5 monks were disgusted, thinking the recluse Gotama now lives luxuriously, has given up the quest and reverted to luxury. They left me. So now, when the Bodhisattva is just going to get awakened to become Buddha, the 5 monks left him. So this means what? Sometimes you want to do something big, something important. Nobody wants to help you. Your friends leave you, so you're on your own. That means you're going to do something big and important. So don't be disappointed. All right. In fact, it is right that they leave it so that he will not get distracted with his meditation. The next session talks about the jhanas that he goes into. All this he's familiar with them already. Remember, he could go into the formless jhana. So here he goes into the first jhana. I'm using the English, which is Sanskrit actually, anglicized, first dhyana, second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana. So he's able to attain up to the fourth dhyana. He doesn't need to go beyond that. With the fourth dhyana, his mind is so calm, and he directs the mind to look at true reality on anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Section 36. He attains the various kinds of knowledges. The first knowledge is he's able to recollect his past lives. Because of his deep meditation, he recollects own past lives, okay? Then further down, number 38, he attains the divine eye. The divine eye's clairvoyance is able to see the arising and passing away of other beings according to their karma. So this is about rebirth. So now he knows there is rebirth. He's able to understand how people suffer and how they go on with their karma because of the karma. And then finally, the third knowledge is the destruction of the influxes, 40. Question 40. So this is the final knowledge. I directed the mind, it hears the mind, to the knowledge of the destruction of influxes. I directly knew as it really is This is suffering. This is the arising of suffering. This is the path leading to the, this is the ending of suffering. This is the path to the ending of suffering. So this is the Four Noble Truths, the essence of awakening. And then he understands further down what the influxes are, how these influxes arise and how they pass away, and so on. So here he declares his mind is freed. And this is the third true knowledge. He becomes an arhat. So this is when he becomes Buddha. Notice here, he says he becomes arhat. All right? He's awakened. He's an arhat just like any other arhat, but he's the first arhat. And his awakening is very deep. Now then after his awakening, because he is recovering from all his exertion, and he starts thinking how deep this Dharma is. Look at 43 now. This is the hesitation, okay? So after the awakening, after the first discourse, the Buddha's hesitation. So he reflects on this Dharma. I say, oh, this Dharma is so deep. It's so difficult to understand. Deep, hard to see, hard to understand. So he has not decided to teach. It's not that he doesn't want to teach. He's just thinking, oh, this is really tough, very difficult. So he just was thinking like that. Then Brahma, thinking that the Buddha is not going to teach, he got very worried. Brahma is a non-returner, so he still has restlessness. So he rushes down and tells the Buddha, please teach him the Dharma. There are people who will benefit, but if you don't, there are those a lot of people will not benefit, right? So let's look at 44 here. Brahma comes down and says, alas, the world is lost. The world is destroyed. The Buddha is not teaching the Dharma, right? So he goes to the Buddha and says, Bhante, may the Blessed One teach the Dharma. Right? There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are falling away through not hearing the Dharma. There will be those who will understand the Dharma, right? So here you see this Brahma very concerned about the world. There will be those who understand. Right? And then the Buddha surveyed the world and tells us what he thinks with the parable of the lotus ponds, section 45. 45. So he says, all right, then I survey the world with my Buddha eye. Say, okay, what Brahma says is true. That there are those people who can understand and those who don't understand. They're like lotuses. Lotus pool, you see, some lotuses are deep down in the mud, stuck down there. Others are kind of under the water, not able to rise up. They are just on the surface of the water. When the sun shines, then they will just rise up. And then there are those already up and open, beautiful lotuses. So there are those who listen to the Dharma. They are like the lotuses just on the surface of the water. And for them, the Buddha called the Dharma. Those are the arahats of the past. And in a way, we can be included in that part also, the lotuses just on the water surface. So Brahma is very happy. And, say, all right, sadhu, Brahma has done his job, he disappears. So now the Buddha wonders, who shall he teach first? Okay, let's look at 46 now. So first of all, he thought of Alara Kalama, right, the first teacher. But the Devas approached and told the Buddha, Bhante, Alara Kalama died 7 days ago. All right, so too bad his karma is such, to die just a week before the awakening. So he thinks of the second teacher, the Uddaka Ramaputta, Rama's son. But again, he died just the night before, right? So can you imagine that karma, no? So he just passed away, had no chance to learn the Dharma. So then he thought of the 5 monks. All right, now so that is 48, section 48. Right, so Then noble prince, it occurred to me, to whom shall I teach? Who understand quickly? Noble prince, it then occurred to me to teach the 5 monks who had attended upon me, and they should be ready to hear the Dharma. All right, so he decides to go to where the 5 monks are, in the deer park at Isipatana. So now you have the Bodhisattva walking to the park, and on the way, he meets this Upaka, the naked ascetic. All right, and this naked ascetic is very impressed by the Buddha, is very radiant. He says, wow, you must be a great teacher. All right, so this is where section 49.5. Who is your teacher? Upaka asked. Then Buddha says, I have no teacher. I've overcome everything myself. Equal to me, there is none in all the world. With his gods, there's no rival to me. And Arahat, indeed, am I in this world. So he's telling, this is the first person, by the way, to know that he is awakened. And Upaka is not very bright. So he said, oh, okay, so, you know. So the Sutta says, he nodded his head Indian style. That is, I think it's kind of left to right, you know. Say, okay, you know, I hear you, but I'm not sure I believe you. That's the Indian trademark. Then you have the Chinese trademark where there is a Chinese yes. We just say yes, not to annoy the other person, even though we don't agree with the person. So Upaka did that to the Buddha and went off into the forest, and he marries one of the, you know, this hunter's daughter. And it was not a happy marriage. The woman, they had a child, the woman made fun of him, that he was a holy man and then got married. So this Upaka said, you know, I know the Buddha, you know, and he leaves the family and goes back to the Buddha later on. All right. So anyway, so the Buddha journeys himself, he goes to see the 5 monks. All right, so that is section 50. All right, section 50. So here, let me summarize, since time is short. So he goes to the 5 monks, and the 5 monks see the Buddha coming, and they talk among themselves. They say, oh, you know, here comes that teacher who gave up, you know, and we'll just say hello to him, and that's it, you know, we won't respect him or anything like that. But then, as soon as the Buddha came near, when they look at the Buddha, they spontaneously stood up and bowed to the Buddha with palms together, took his ball and robe and showed him respect. But then they addressed him as Avuso. They didn't know how to address him. Then the Buddha said, no, you know, that's not the way to address me. I've come here to teach Dhamma. But again, first time they were not convinced. Second time they were not convinced. And the third time they were not convinced. Then the third time, this is what the Buddha tells them. 52. Section 52. Go further down, yes. So 52, yeah. So the Buddha says, the Buddha calls them bhikshus, right? Have you ever known me to speak like this before? Right, so this changed their mind. They said, no, Bhante, right? Bhikshus, the Tathagatas, and Arahat, fully self-awakened, give ear, bhikshus. The death-free state has been attained. I shall instruct you the Dhamma. In practicing the Dhamma, you will attain the same awakening, right? So finally, the 5 monks are convinced, and they listen. We're not told exactly what the Buddha taught them. That's found elsewhere. The Buddha taught 2 of the monks. The other 3 went for alms. Then the Buddha taught 3 of the monks. And 2 others went for alms. This is section 53.2. Section 53.2, right? 2 monks listened, 3 went out for alms. 3 monks listened, and 2 of the monks went out for alms. Then noble prince, the group of 5 monks, attained direct knowledge. They all became awakened and arahats, right? So now the conclusion. The prince asked the Buddha, 55, after how long would a monk with the Buddha as guide attain the supreme goal of the holy life, become awakened? Then the Buddha says, the Buddha replies, he says, he asked the prince, you train elephants, right? So what do you think? How long do you think it will take? So here, Bodhi replies, page 50, section 56, 56.2. So Bodhi says, if the person has no faith, often ill, crafty, deceitful, lazy, unwise, it'll be quite slow, right? But if he has faith, he's healthy, and he's honest and hardworking and wise, it'll be very fast, right? So you can easily practice it, easily learn elephant training, right? So the Buddha further replies, 58, section 58, the Buddha says, even so, noble prince, there are these 5 limbs of striving, right? The 5 limbs of striving are these same things that are mentioned by the prince, that is faith, good health, is freedom from illness, honesty and sincerity, energy and wisdom. So if anyone has this kind of desire to learn, within 7 years, he's able to awaken. The Buddha said, oh, you don't need 7 years. Even in here you have this ancient method of teaching, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 year, and then 12 months, and so on down to 1 month. And then the Buddha say, oh, even 7 days. Oh, don't talk of 7 days, even 1 day and 1 night. It's also possible to learn the Dharma. All right. So finally, the Buddha comes to this answer, 59.22. 59.22, the Buddha says, let alone 1 day, 1 night and day, noble prince. When a monk has these 5 limbs of striving, he obtains the Tathagata, the Buddha, as a guide. Then, being instructed in the evening, he may arrive at a distinction, that means awaken, in the morning. Being instructed in the morning, he may arrive with distinction, a distinction that is awakening in the evening, right? So now we come to this very interesting conclusion. Since everything is finished now, the teaching is finished, Bodhi is very happy. He says, wow, this is wonderful. And he says, oh, the Buddha, oh, the Dhamma, oh, the Dhamma, oh, the Sangha, oh, the Dhamma is well taught. All right? So this is an exaltation. Then something interesting happens. Sanjikaputta was there watching the prince. So he kind of got a little annoyed that, is that all this prince can say, oh Buddha, oh Dhamma? So he says, let's look at what he says. 61. When this was said, the Brahminu Sanjikaputta said to Prince Bodhi, Master Bodhi declares thus, oh the Buddha, oh the Dhamma, oh that the Dhamma is well taught. But he does not say, I go to Bhante for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Now, this remark by Sanjikaputta shows that he has faith in the Buddha. He could have attained some level. For example, in one of those longer sutta, the Siyanada Sutta, you have this a layman who is a non-returner, right? So we do not know his what stage this Sanjikaputta has attained, but he remarks that the prince should take refuge, not just say those words. Then Bodhi replies, say not so, dear Sanjikaputta, say not so, dear Sanjikaputta. Dear Sanjikaputta, from my mother herself I heard this. From my mother herself I learned this. So this is what he learned from as a child, right? His mother taught him. Why is that so? Because his mother, there was a time, dear Sanjikaputta, says Bodhi, 60.2, the Buddha was residing at Gosita's monastery outside Kosambi. My mother, who was with child, was bearing him as a child, went to the Blessed One, saluted him, and sat down at one side. And he told the Buddha, Bhante, my unborn child, whether a boy or a girl, goes to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. May the Blessed One remember him or her as a lay follower from this day forth from life. Here again is a unique situation where a mother lets her child, unborn child, take refuge. So this is the first refuge going, by the way. All right. Then says this Prince Bodhi, there was a time too, dear Sanjikaputra, when the Blessed One was residing right there in the deer park in Bisakala forest in Sumsumara Iri, amongst the Bagas, that my nurse, carrying me on her hips, approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and then says, Bhante, this Prince Bodhi goes for refuge to the Blessed One. It's the second time. Now I, dear Sanjikaputra, go for refuge the third time to the Blessed One, and to the Dharma, and to the Sangha of monks. May the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower from this day forth from life. And the sutta ends here. So there you are. You can see it's quite a happy ending here with the prince taking refuge in the Buddha, and hopefully he's less violent or non-violent this time. Okay, we've gone a few minutes over our time. If there's any urgent question, you can have one or two questions.
Sister Aisin, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Piya and Sister Ran. Question from Brother Maya.
Yes.
What's the suffering that is being referred to in this sutta? As in happiness cannot come from suffering. How does Bodhisattva's practices of self-mortifications could relate to us in today's life?
No, we're not supposed to follow those practices. That's for the Buddha. The Buddha went through all those difficult practices to show us that they don't work. And it is not possible for us to try them because they're really tough practices. We will die before we attain any levels at all because we don't have that kind of yogic training. All right. So the Buddha has very good yogic training, so he's gone through all that, and that doesn't help. Okay. All right. Any other question?
Yes. 3 more questions, Bhante.
Mm-hmm.
What is the significance of Bodhisattva living home as mentioned in this sutta compared to commentarial version?
The living home here means that he has to seek the answer for himself. He will not be able to find it while living the home life. That means he's still under the power of his senses, the 5 senses, enjoying such a pleasure. So he has to get away from that so that he's able to train his mind. Okay. All right, next question.
Okay, next question is, what does it mean for desire for sensual pleasures to be well appeased internally?
In this case, it means the Buddha or the Arhat does not even think of it at all. His mind is completely happy because of attaining dhyana. So he no more thinks of, all these sensual pleasures. Let me tell you a little story here. Many years ago, when I was still a monk, I had this really wonderful cat. I love cats, and they love me in return, it seems. So one day, this cat came along with, I can't remember now, so long ago, either a rat or a bird. Okay? So this cat has caught this rat or bird and came up to me and put this little piece of food right on my foot. I was a monk at that time. And of course, I had to tell the cat, my dear cat, thank you so much. You are trying so hard, but you should not kill. But the thing is, humans don't eat that kind of food, all right? So same thing, Brahma was worshipped by a Brahma worshipper, and this woman was offering all kinds of offering to the Brahma over some time. Then Brahma decided to appear to him and say, we don't take this kind of food. We are Brahma, we are not humans, So please don't offer this kind of food. In fact, you should be offering this food to your own son, who is an Arahat, and the fruits will be really immense if you do that, right? So the answer is very simple. The there's this, we are different from, the devas are different. Once you are of that level, you will not want to enjoy the pleasures of the world, which is so gross. It's a sense-based, whereas the devas are happy by themselves, with their own minds. They don't need to rely on the senses anymore. And when you go into deep meditation through jhanas, you get that same ability. All right? Okay, any other last minute? Last minute?
There are two more questions, Brother Piya. Are you okay?
Two more. Okay.
Yeah. By Brother Manya, Prince Bodhi gains 3 meaning at end of story in Dhammapada. Why there is no happy ending for him in the sutta?
For whom?
For Prince Bodhi.
Oh, well, it's not ready. No, obviously it's not ready. We're not told. We're not told what happened to him after this. So he might have gone to the Buddha. So this part we have. This is called argument from silence. We do not know. So we got to look in the sutta further, see what happened to him. Last question.
Okay, last question by Nick Tan. Why did the Bodhisattva able to get into the state of nothingness, but he only remember about the first jhana later?
Oh, I think in the case of the Bodhisattva, he was already able to meditate all the jhanas. Remember, even as a 7-year-old child, he could meditate up to the first jhana. And once you go to this kind of teacher, they also will teach you how to attain the jhanas and then go into the first formless jhana, second formless jhana, and then reach the level which they have mastered. So they are taught all these previous stages also. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Brother Piya.
Yeah.
That's all from the chat box.
Finish, yeah? All right.
Yes.
I think we can end here, unless there's really urgent thing, something you cannot sleep over. Any other final? No more, huh? Okay, let us now close this study with a reflection. So let us calm our minds and rejoice. We have looked at the Bodhi Rāja Kumāra Sutta. You can now study on your own if you like, since you have been helped with the summary. So remember this wonderful time that you have spent dedicating yourself to Dhamma training. So just calm your minds and direct those happy thoughts to yourself. May I be well, may I be happy, and so on to yourself. And then direct those happy thoughts to your loved ones, to people who are important to you, even to people you're not happy with, people who are not happy with you. They are included in your lives so that they connect happily with you. And then we close by showing our gratitude to the three jewels. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.